If you are in the market for a used graphics card, should you be considering a GTX 970 or a GTX 780 even, or possibly a GTX 1060, an R9 390X, or of course the popular RX 580, which is still sold on the new market as good as the value it offers on the used market. However, that being said, used price performance usually beats out new price performance by quite a bit. So if you're in the market to save some money, which of these 5 cards is going to represent the best bang for buck? Let's roll that intro, roll some benchmarks for you guys, and then come back to the verdict. And yes, I did shave my head because I had to keep the organic cooling efficiency at 110%. And after benchmarking those cards, I can say one thing for certain, and that is all 5 cards that we said in the intro all have a really good purpose. They're all kind of competing in the same league, except with the exception of the GTX 780. That seems to be falling behind, and the first benchmark we'll pull up here to sort of advocate on this is a Strange Brigade, where we can see that this card used to be closer to a 970 until basically asynchronous support on games came out, where Strange Brigade is known to support async compute. And so that can lift the numbers up, and basically when the 780 doesn't really have that at the baseline, it's going to fall behind at 1440p and also 1080p. But the 3GB frame buffer as well also does put a limitation on this card, especially when we're pumping the settings up to ultra. Though, for what it's worth, I picked this card up for just under 60 US dollars, so 80 Australian dollars. I mean, the way the currency market's going at the moment, this will probably be around 40 USD in a couple of months' time, but who knows. But basically, this card here is really interesting because I think I should be doing a dedicated video on its own where I'm lowering the settings and overclocking it and then really seeing what it's for. But since we've got so many good cards here, the GTX 970, the R9 390X, the GTX 1060, and the RX 580, those 5 cards are really the cream of the crop if you're looking to get into used price performance. I'd say the exception though, we will talk about the R9 390X and roll through some of these numbers. We see that it's performing very close to a 1060 and an RX 580. And Fortnite, of course, being one of the most popular games out there, this card's going to do very well. The problem with the R9 390X currently is availability. I can't really find this card consistently at good prices. And at its current price point, for instance in Australia, 250 Aussie dollars, I'd much rather pick up an RX 580, 8GB, that's going to use less power and get similar performance. Because when we pull up these power consumption results for you guys right here, we can see that the 390X is a power hog. Despite it getting really good performance, and despite it still having an 8GB frame buffer, it's just falling way behind on the power efficiency. So this means you're going to have a better case if you're on a budget, better power supply, and all those things really do matter, especially when we put it in relation to the price performance of these used cards on the bench here. Moving through Shadows of the Tomb Raider at 1080p and 1440p, the 780 Lightning does fall behind with that 3GB frame buffer again. But the GTX 970, we can see here, this is starting to become a real champion of the bunch in my opinion. And I've put here in the graphs, you'll notice 3.5 to 4GB of VRAM because you can interpret that how you want it, kind of like AMD's FX 8-core. Some people interpret it as a 4-core, some interpret it as a 6-core in between, and some people, like myself, when we're advertising a gaming PC, still just say, nah, it's gonna be an 8-core. But this right here, GTX 970, it's an impressive card considering I picked this one up in particular for 120 Aussie dollars, and I do see them consistently at around these prices. And so you're not really paying the NVIDIA tax with this particular card. And in fact, it's coming very close to that of the GTX 1060 6GB. Of course, you do lose out a bit on the frame buffer, but at 1080p, it's still a relevant card in 2020. And the power consumption results are actually pretty close to the bunch. It's not going too far out of proportion, and it's still giving great performance. They're going through the rest of these titles. We've got Far Cry here, 1080p and 1440p. You guys may notice I like to have a bit of fun with the titles here and there, and these numbers are pretty much looking very similar to the other results in the other games. And then the last title, For Honor, pretty much sticking to the trend here at both 1080p and 1440p, showing that all 5 cards are matching up well to what you can expect to get them for on the used market. Though, let's get into a conclusion right here, because what I saw is if you go out and buy an RX 580 or a GTX 970, they would be my 2 cards at the moment if you're looking for raw price performance. They're pulling all these graphics cards into the charts here. We can see that the 5500 XT especially isn't looking like it's such good value for money anymore, especially since we've got a used price performance comparison going on here, and that card's currently going on the new market. I mean, in Australia, you can expect to get this thing for 350 Aussie dollars or more, and when we look at the price we paid for the 970 on the weekend, for instance, 120 Aussie dollars, we see the price performance of used cards is just so much better right now. Though going back to the power consumption numbers, it is a good thing that cards are getting more power efficient, but I just don't think the value for money is getting a whole lot better there. I mean, we look at the 970, it's really not drawing a whole lot more power than these newer cards. Take, for instance, the 5500 XT, but the price difference between this new card and the used 970 is huge. That's enough for me to just ignore those power efficiency numbers and just say, look, if you want the best price performance, go for a used graphics card. But another thing that does concern me is the 970, for example, and the R9 390X, these were considered basically mid-range cards back when they were released over 5 years ago. So basically 5 years in the making, we really haven't seen a big jump in our mid-range graphics cards. And so I would like to see that level, especially that 200 US price point, really start to bring us more price performance. I guess that's the biggest takeaway from this video for me personally. Though all that aside, do let us know in the comments section below what you think is the best used price performance graphics card at the moment. I think the 970 and also the RX 580 are my 2 top picks because they're both pretty much readily available in stock. You can always pick up a 970 on the used market generally, and you can always pick up an RX 580. In fact, they're so readily available, you can get them on eBay, buy it now, usually all the time, or if that fails, you can go to AliExpress. Anyway, do let us know in the comments your thoughts. Also let us know if you enjoy the Tech Yes Ramble. But speaking of Tech Yes Ramble, we've got the question of the day here from Shampoo Time, and they ask, any plans on increasing your team size? I think you're a one-man band with an editor sometimes, but anything in the works for a crew? And so we're talking about Tech Yes City in general, and it's hard as a one-man band. Like, I'm gonna be honest, my video editor hasn't actually been in here for a good 5 months since PAX because he's been doing his own thing. So I've just been one-man banding YouTube and the videos for all that time. And it is hard, like YouTube's hard. And the reason I don't bring on someone else is because it's just not consistent enough. If you guys look back on the past even 2 months on my channel, sometimes I'll be getting good views on the videos. They'll go up to like 50K a day on every single video I release. Then there's weird. It feels like something comes down on my channel and I'll get like 10K views or 20K views. So it's just too inconsistent for me to employ someone. And with that, it's like, if I did employ someone, it's like, hey, the views are bad this month. We got to drop your paycheck down. And I really don't want to do that at the moment. So it's just, I'm at that level where if things were a bit more consistent, I would bring someone on, but because they're just roller coaster at the moment, I'm a little bit reluctant to bring someone on because it's unfair for them to give them a job and then a few months later, hey, YouTube's doing terrible, so we got to cut you. So that's kind of like the one reason I've just been soloing YouTube. And another reason too is in Australia, if you want to get someone who's qualified to edit videos like really well and do all the stuff that I do here, it's going to cost me a lot of money too to employ that person. Hope that answers that question, and if you guys enjoyed today's used price performance GPU roundup, then be sure to hit that like button for us. Also, if you stayed this far and you're enjoying that content, then you know what to do, and I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Also, if you guys have some good shaved head jokes, then be sure to drop them in the comments section below, and I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.